First of all, I want to thank Leo Dillon, that is not going to be in the room, that the State Department and NOAA, which is part of the Department of Commerce, have a good relationship between the cartographic units, and he suggested that why not have a maritime session in cartography in NACIS, and I said that's a fantastic idea, so that's why we're here to present maritime cartography. And with that, let's begin. So first, about myself, my name is Shachak Peeri, and I'm the head branch chief of the chart standards group at Marine Chart Division at NOAA. I've been honestly not a lot of time a cartographer. I started to be a cartographer from August 2016. Before that, I've been working as a photogrammetrist and a remote sensing person for 11 years. Before that, I've been working for 5 years as a field surveyor. In addition to my duties as a branch chief, I'm also the secretary of a marine cartography working group in the International Cartographic Association, and also the program coordinator for the CatB certificate for professional marine cartographers. And that's in addition to all the fun duties of being in the Marine Chart Division. Now, one of the things that is important to mention, and before I go even to that slide, is that NOAA is a great place to work. It has a lot of great scientific groups in it. Groups that research oceanography, fish, coastal management, weather, climate, and many more other topics. This makes a cartographic life very challenging and very exciting, very interesting. But sometimes you need to use some pointy elbows to show that what we do is as important as the people that collect data. To present data is not just slapping it on the map. I don't have to convince you on the chart. It does require some standards, rule, art, and business agenda to dictate what's going on. So the first thing that we every time there's a Marine Chart Division presentation with other oceanographers and other ocean mapping in the rule, we remind them that cartography has been around for centuries. And marine cartography has been around since the 13th century, and in United States, the 1777 Atlantic Neptune was published by cartographers from England and United States born, and 1850s when you start to have it. And we explained to them that yes, 300 years of marine cartography have been around, but there's been more change than just the tools we use. Also the perception how we see cartography. And that's part of the business agenda, hey John, that we work also. And so some of the things that we're trying to do today, and I'm not saying only in the room here, but in general, is to take traditional cartography, such as Mercator or Henry Pelham that produced the first chart of Boston, and make it a little more sexy, more modern, up with times, make it a little more fun. So for that, it's maybe better to start first of all with some basics. When you ask somebody that just got hired to the Marine Chart Division, what's the difference between a map and a chart? The answer you expect is, you can sue somebody if you have a bad chart. So cartography actually has some legal aspect for us about that. Every source we put in the chart has to come from a certain authority. Also, the way we present data, our generalization rules, our sources that we provide, has some meaning to it. For example, here you can see how we move from large scale to small scale, and you can see that some soundings we're selecting are not geographically distributed evenly, but the shortest sounding to represent where a ship should be aware on the underkeel clearance when she passed over that area. Also survey coverage, and here I'm showing you classic paper chart and raster charts. But even in the GIS world, we need to make sure that topology match. We don't have gaps in the data. So either we have land or land, pseudo-land, hulks, dry docks, and we have depth areas, dredged areas, and if we have nothing, we actually define that as unsurveyed. So that's part of the aspect that we need to deal with and think about when we create our own maps and charts. Yeah, charts, nautical charts. Now, this is more or less where I'll stop talking about what's the difference between marine cartography and and topographic mapping, what I will allow my colleagues to present more on this topic on past, present, and future, and tell you about my efforts, the efforts of a group, meaning Marine Chart Division at Office of Coast Survey, to promote marine cartography in the academic world, in the professional world, and try to make cartography relevant again. And the most important thing, I put it up top, is participation in NACIS. So we're here, we're presenting a session. In addition to that, we're doing other activities as a CatB, chart adequacy training, the Marine Cartography Working Group, and the Open House on Nautical Cartography that I will elaborate now. In addition to that, my colleagues will present three papers here. One by Colby Harmon about the current activities in NOAA, showing how we're improving chart coverage. The second topic will be future of nautical charts. So how we are now taking charts not from the raster perspective, but from more a digital perspective, getting streaming data in all kinds of forms and actually make it visual. So translating that, automating it, standardizing, which is the challenge of modern cartography. And last but not least is keeping with tradition. It doesn't matter what technology you use. It can be, today we're using GIS, tomorrow it can be something else. We started from Mylar. The concepts are the same concept. And the significance is the end users that are using those products. So that's something we're keeping in mind, and John Masick will present on that topic. The other activities we're doing is about education. And one of the big successes we had was that in 2017, we submitted a proposal to the International Board of Standards and Competence. This is a board that's composed from FIG, that's the International Surveyor Group, IHO, International Hydrographic Office, that's the Maritime Surveyors, and the International Cartographic Association. Our proposal was to be recognized for a Tier 2 cartographer level. So for professional cartographers, you can have Tier 1, which is a CatA, and Tier 2 is more applied, and this will allow our professional workforce to get a graduate level education with a certificate that is internationally recognized. Similar, by the way, for those that are not familiar, hydrographers have a kind of certificate, and the hydrographer certificate, a CatB or CatA, is actually quite in demand in the public sector. The CatB program is a one-year graduate program. And in order to be accepted to that, you need to have transcripts and grade that can be accepted to an academic university. We actually are partnering up with Montgomery College and University of Maryland, College Park, and for prospect students to be accepted to the program, we are interested that it can be accepted to a master's program in GIS at the University of Maryland. That requires at least 6 hours of math, remote sensing, and a good GPA in general. This one-year class is composed of 6 courses. 2 are taught by NOAA, 2 are taught by Montgomery College, and 2 are taught by University of Maryland. First, we start with an intensive boot camp of refresher course. Just remind everybody about geography, all kinds of deep sea features, coastal geology, hydrography, how do you survey, how do you measure, the history of cartography, some math, some IT, basic programming, and geodesy, so datums, transformation, vertical references. After that, we actually start working, starting with basic elements of cartography, pacing, mapping, color, and all those aspects. So going really in detail about that aspect, and then going into map design and providing an applied way to put it. In addition to map design, during the same semester, we also go through the GIS concepts. So it's not how to use a GIS, so it's not intro to Esri. It's actually how to interrogate an Esri environment or QGIS environment or any other open source or other GIS software that around it to do what you are interested to use it for. So what tools are you looking for? If it's a Thessalian coverage or something else. Then into modeling, creating trends, understanding what's going on there. And last but not least is an internship project where you are going through the different groups in Marine Chart Division. So the data registration group, the standard groups, and a product branch, and creating a chart, not from scratch, but updating and trying to go through the procedures. And just to get a little more detail about the training project, you can see on the board here, the students are learning how to use an ENC, that's an electronic navigation chart. How to look and verify the different sources. If it's a light list, meaning buoys, or if it's under hill clearance, meaning going under a bridge, pipeline, depths, of course, shoreline, and there's other elements. Then creating and compiling that, going through all the standards that are required to publish a chart. So if you're not familiar, a chart needs to go through several standards in order to make it to a ship. It's called S57. If it doesn't get that approval, it stays in the office. It can't go on the street. And that's part of the validation. And last but not least, rasterizing it, creating a raster product using the vectoric data. We're not there yet, and Christy will talk about some of the aspects that we're looking, but that's part of the things we're working on and trying to deliver that in a proper form. Every activity that the student does in the project is supervised by a senior cartographer that looks over the shoulder of a student and check if the cartography is solid, if the logic is correct, if there are any kind of human errors, any kind of data errors, and going through the data. In addition to that, we also have training and education for a more broader audience. One for the general public, it's an open house. We had 2 years of open house presentation similar to NACIS, but this is more to enhance the local and the international marine cartography groups. So it's NOAA, NGA, Army Corps, Navy, and also local academia and international. And that was last year, and the topics for last year was hydrography to cartography, nautical products, marine spatial data infrastructure, and innovative cartography. This year in July, and I wanted to put Leo Dillon's picture, I apologize, instead I put the head of NOAA, but good enough. So we had quite a nice group of people presenting under applied cartography within the US. We had BOEM, we had Army Corps, and we had NOAA. We had international cartography. We had presenters from France, from Canada, and from JEBCO, which is an international effort of getting developing nation to map their own ocean, to give them some power to allow them sovereignty on their own waters. And also commercial aspects, such as ESRI, CARES, and other organizations like working with the UN. And that was quite a success. In addition to that, we actually get funding to allow international cartographers around the world to come and train about charting. And we allow them to evaluate the data with the resources they have in their location. We're a rich country. We can actually own ships. We can survey the area and can provide that data to the chart. Some locations, like Mauritius, Madagascar, the only thing they have is barely a person that they just graduated from college. What can they do? So we teach them how to use satellite imagery that is free, coming from the USGS portal, and deriving bathymetry, calculating shoreline from satellite imagery, how to use AIS data, automatic identification system, which is positioning of ships, so they can calculate where is the most important thing for them to map first and prioritize accordingly. And then looking at the data that they have as a legacy. Thank you. So we had 4 classes so far, and last year class we had people from Egypt, Israel, Japan, Madagascar, Mauritius, Nigeria, Panama, Philippines, Russia, Spain, Taiwan, and Thailand. And every year we rotate around 12 international people, and there's funding to bring them over, which is a nice network to have, and making a United States a place that is becoming front and center in marine cartography and hosting all these events. I'm missing a slide here, but one slide that I had more is about the efforts we're doing with the ICA, the International Cartographic Association. So unfortunately in 2009, not too much international effort was invested in marine cartography. As a result, the Marine Cartography Commission was downgraded to a working group. 3 years ago, IHO stepped in to help ICA, and 2 people were from Australia and Greece became the chair and vice chair of this group. I joined in as a secretary, and our efforts are quite successful. We expect that in the next International Cartographic Conference in 2019, we'll become a commission again. So that's in Japan, in Tokyo. And anybody that is interested to present a paper on that, please let me know. That announcement will come shortly, and we're organizing at least 2 sessions, meaning 6 presentations at least, on marine cartography, and that's in July next year in Japan. Last thing, so I talked a lot about building capacity and activities. We need to talk a little bit of cartography, just to let some eye candy. And this is some perspective that is changing the mentality of cartography. Cartography, marine cartography always was vision, what can we give the mariner? What is good? One is a solution for all that can be used. And even more than that, the Coast Guard defines one system that is official. It's called ECDIS. And Colby will talk about more in detail, but it requires very strict standards to get a product through that. But honestly, there's another group of people. There's several. There's recreational, there are pilots, people that go on a ship and navigate the ship in certain harbors from the sea buoy to the berthing, to the anchoring location. Those people are not using an ECDIS system. They're using their own tools. Back in the day, they just had paper and charts and local notes, so they have this local knowledge that is valuable. Today, there are software by different companies that are providing that. Some of them provide also hardware. The standards are not the same. What can we do? Also, what are the standards we need to use? And thinking from a NOAA perspective, where we have so much data, we have tides, we have currents, we have fishery knowledge, we have bathymetry knowledge, we have shoreline, what else can we provide? And one of the things we're looking at is tides and currents. And if you can look at it here, if a mariner navigates in New York Harbor, going from a sea buoy near Sandy Hook up the river, how should he do that? Maybe the best time is to come at 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 p.m., where the currents are against you or with you. Then you're starting going up the river, and here we emphasize what we got from the mariners, a 12-minute increment. And it takes about 2 hours and 40 minutes getting all the way up to the Narrows. But before you begin, you want to know what's the underkeel clearance and to know what the tides and currents are going on. So incorporating cartography with other tools, such as forecast and nowcast, where we have currents and tides, that's a nice way of presenting that. So that's just a thought that we're playing around with. And with that, I'll just make a small teaser. We do provide internships, so if anybody is interested, please approach me at the end, and we can tell you the different opportunities for anybody that wants to do a 6 to 12-week internship, paid internship at NOAA. Not everybody is accepted, but if you apply, you'll be considered, of course. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.